Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Moster. I'm a franchise consultant with Franchise Solutions Group. What a franchise consultant does is he or she works with people who are interested in starting a franchise, becoming a franchise owner, and they give guidance to those people so they can find just the right franchise to buy and one that will be successful just for them. We're giving this presentation during the COVID-19 crisis and the stay-at-home orders at a time when we sort of have an enforced recession going on because a lot of people can't leave their homes. There are a lot of businesses that are closed. We're kind of in a recession, and yet there are certain businesses that are continuing to do well even during this crisis. They're ordinarily called recession-resistant businesses, but some of them are even pandemic-resistant businesses. And I'm very pleased to have as a guest one of those very businesses with me, which is called NERDS to Go, and the franchise developer, whose name is Sean Hansen. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what NERDS to Go is all about, and importantly, why it is such a recession-resistant business. So with that, Sean, thanks very much for joining us. And can you please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and tell us a little bit about NERDS to Go?
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Todd. NERDS to Go provides IT service and support to small businesses and residential customers around the country. We've been in business for over 15 years when we launched as a franchise opportunity, really providing those, whether it's network equipment, new laptop deployment, mesh Wi-Fi, you name it. We essentially become the small business IT department. And when I look at that, you think about those professional services organizations like our attorneys, accountants, real estate agencies, et cetera. They want their technology to work. They require it to work, right? Whether they're taking payments, running their operation, doing payroll, et cetera. It's got to work, but they don't want to, learn how to make it work, maintain it, or support it, and they also don't have the budget or the desire to have full-time on-site IT staff. So that's where we come in. Fundamentally, we become their IT department and can do everything from new deployment, networking, computers, cloud hosting, et cetera. So it becomes a great partnership and great teaming opportunity for us. And then as we see the local market with residential consumer right now, for us, that's on fire as we are an essential service, and we're enabling people to work remote. We're deploying hardware, taking care of their network, taking care of security, deploying Chromebooks for kids, and taking care of that residential side. Traditionally, our business ratio is about 75% small business, 25% residential. Well, you can imagine right now we're doing a ton of residential support and service for not only small businesses, but large organizations who need their employees to be able to work remote.
So Sean, then I understand that you're not only a person who works for the franchise company of NERDS to Go, but you learned so much about the brand that you decided to become a franchisee yourself?
You're right. I guess I put my money where my mouth is as I went on my own exploration and left the corporate world, really realizing that, gosh, I was working my tail off to make somebody else a lot of money and wasn't building an asset for my children. I wanted to invest in me. I got to know the NERDS to Go team through my friend and colleague, Dennis Mulgannon, who is our Director of Franchise Development. And I saw this business in a box. I saw the playbook. I saw the support. I saw the culture that David and team built. And I thought, you know what? I want to put my money where my mouth is and become a franchisee. And importantly, we are not a man in a van or a Chuck in a truck model. We're an executive model. So I'm going to launch and grow and scale my team, come out the gate with a salesperson to support growing and selling into the small businesses, and a nerd. And once we get that first nerd up to about 75, maybe 80% utilization on a day-to-day basis, then we're going to recruit and hire nerd number 2, and then scale up to nerd number 3. So it's built for folks like me. I was a former director of a consulting firm and had 20 plus years in corporate America. and take my skills and capabilities, apply them to that business in a box, and then grow it. What I really like about not being that man in a van model is that, fundamentally, I can go on vacation, right? And my team can deliver great service and support when I'm taking my kids to Florida to visit grandma. And it's not all about me answering all the phones, doing all the marketing, delivering the service, but I can scale it out to frankly build something that's bigger and stronger and better than just myself if I were going into the business delivering the services.
So it sounds like to me that, and just to make it clear, in order to become a franchise owner of Nerds to Go, you don't have to be an IT guy or a tech guy or even have a technology background because you're just acting as a CEO?
Correct. We're absolutely, I think as you look across our 30 units open coast to coast, we have a few who have that technical background and experience, but not deploying networks or running cables, etc., but more of that leadership, and they can engage in their community. So we're looking for executive capability, quality, and backgrounds.
So I'm a Nerds to Go, I'm a new owner, okay, and I don't have a tech background. So obviously I'm probably going to have to start with at least 1 or 2 employees, probably one who is the nerd, right? So can you tell me a little
Right.
bit about that, how people start and how they find that nerd, and if the company offers any training in that regard?
Our corporate team has developed all of the job posting processes, the interview questions, and even an online self-assessment tool that we take our candidates through. So we're seeing coast to coast that when we put a job posting out there, we get an average of 12 to 14 applicants for every nerd position we put out there. Then our corporate team helps the franchisee really triage those resumes and applications and identify who's the best for the best. And we'll take them through a technical triage and screening and really help our franchisees identify not only do they have the technical background, but they've got the interpersonal skills. How do they present themselves? How do they communicate? Real candidly, is it somebody that you would welcome into your home or small business office? We're looking for good techies with typically a 2-year technical vocational degree, 3 to 5 years of field service experience, maybe the CompTIA A+ certification, and can do the work. And when they come up, at least your first nerd, maybe your first 2, we deliver our training and really train the trainer format, so you don't have to keep on sending every subsequent hire up there. But we're teaching them customer service. We're teaching them about our back office systems, how we do scheduling, routing, assignment. They're going out in the field, shadowing our nerds on at least 2 days and rotating the nerds that they're shadowing. And then once they go through training, they came in as a good techie and they graduate as a certified nerd.
So it sounds to me that, just to summarize before we move forward, that your nerds are doing 2 different kinds of things. In one case, you have a nerd who's in a van, and I've seen those vans, they're beautiful. And so they'll go actually to somebody's business and help them set up the computer network if required, or the virus type of thing, the Wi-Fi setup, or right now I guess they're doing it remotely, so they're going to the customer. But you also have the service where, say, an accountant, it's tax day and he's got a deadline and all of a sudden his system has gone down and it's 10 p.m. and he doesn't know what to do, and he calls, and he can call his Nerds to Go supplier and he'll get that IT service over the phone immediately. Do I have a correct understanding of those services?
You do. We don't typically like those 10 p.m. calls. We have a very small segment of our customers that are on those. We typically operate during normal business hours. But you're right. If let's say it's 6 p.m. and we're fine with those later calls too. But and they need us to remote in, so we can when they're one of our business service plan customers, we'll install the remote management, remote support tools so that we can remote in and take care of them back from our small office space. What we call our nerd lab is where our nerds are based when they're back in the office. We also do, new builds and deployments, et cetera, at our office to really streamline going out in the field. So yes, both on-site service and support and the remote management and support.
And one thing that people who have started investigating franchises and maybe even have talked to a few, a term that they often hear is scalability. Can you describe what scalability is and specifically how Nerds to Go provides that feature?
That's a great question. So I think that there's a lot of, say, systems and models out there where you have to go in, and let's say it's a frozen yogurt place, right? You open the doors, you're doing your marketing, you've got to staff it at a certain level, and you're coming out with pretty big capital outlay, et cetera. And then that's it, right? You might have some seasonal fluctuations, et cetera. Versus for us, when we launch with a small team, and as we build that book of customers and our business service plans, we do break fix and other one-off deployments. Once we get to that higher utilization, great, recruit and hire the next nerd. And then once we get to that 80% utilization amongst our first two, recruit and hire your third nerd and grow up to 5, 6 plus nerds in your team. And so, that really is scaling. You don't have to come in with that huge upfront capital infusion and respective carrying costs, right? If you come in with a bunch of people, bunch of vans and employees, you've got not only that run rate, but the carrying cost of the team, but scale into it, grow into it, and as you grow your business. So I think that's personally something that really attracted me to the business, and I think really attracts a lot of folks as you look at growing over time and as you hit certain benchmarks. Great, let's add team members.
And you mentioned that Nerds to Go is an essential business. And I think in this era right now with the pandemic, and even for folks who are watching this when the pandemic is over, there may be others in the future, essential, it sort of becomes, it has a special meaning. So can you describe what you meant by an essential business and how Nerds to Go kind of is one of those types of businesses?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And when we use that essential business, it's not a term that we coined or have laid claim to, but really instead, it's a business that governors across the states, across the country, have deemed us and IT service and support, particularly that to go, as an essential business. And in that, we are critical to enabling our economy and our workforce to move forward in these trying times. We're also critical to enabling the tele schooling and homeschooling and support for students. So the essential services, most of us traditionally think about, medical workers, nurses, doctors, et cetera. They're absolutely essential and for our health and our life, et cetera. We are also there to enable people to go forward, grow and scale and thrive in these crazy times. So we've got partnership with the Ring Security and Simply Save. So going in and deploying security solutions in small businesses because the owners, they're not there, right? And they want to keep an eye on their office and make sure they're not getting robbed blind while they're sheltering in place. And so that's been a big uptick in what we're doing down there. And, really being able to take what we've historically done and take it to, teleworkers or students doing the security, et cetera, in the small businesses. It's helping enable people continue to move forward in a positive way in these crazy trying times.
Good to hear, Sean. And as a franchise consultant in this current economic environment, even when I'm talking to some people about recession-resistant franchises like Nerds to Go, you can't help but be human, and a lot of these folks have a fear of moving forward. They just kind of maybe want to put their head not in the sand, but kind of sit down and wait until everything clears and not take any action. If you were talking with somebody like that who was investigating Nerds to Go, and so he was or she was directly in touch with you, What advice would you give to that person of how to look at things given the economy that we're in?
We have this unique moment in our lifetimes to not pause on life, but invest. The gift of the pandemic is learn, exercise, grow. Rather than hitting pause, spend time with me, spend time with you, Todd. Learn about opportunities that are out there and take that deeper dive. It's typically an 8 to 12 week process for onboarding, training, marketing, all that great support that we bring to you. If we're sheltering at home, again, you're never going to have that kind of opportunity to learn more and then start growing your business coming out of this and be teed up for a successful launch on the other side of this, launch while we're in this, be able to be a provider of the essential service like we're in.
Very helpful, Sean. And it almost sounds to me you've got such a deliberate process, the discovery process. And for people who may be new to franchises, the discovery process is pretty much as it sounds. You're learning about a new franchise. You've just begun a dialogue with someone like you and the franchise developer, who's making information available to you at a certain deliberate pace. And at a certain point, you get to talk to existing franchisees. And then that's a matter of weeks. And then if you decide to go into the franchise, then as you talked about, you've got this extensive training and all of this. So we're talking weeks and weeks, and perhaps someone going into it by the time they're done and ready to go with the business, not only are they prepared, but the economy is basically opened up. Some of the weaker businesses may no longer be around, and you've got open season on starting a great, fantastic business. Is that sort of an accurate description of what you've been talking about?
It really is. And I think that a lot of folks, when they're just sort of getting started, they think that their first introduction call is going to be like, drinking from a fire hose. It's not. We've really designed our discovery process to say, dip your toe in the pool. We'll send you some information. We'll have an introduction session, half hour, 45 minutes, get to know us a little bit better, and answer initial questions you might have, and then take a look at our franchise disclosure document, talk to franchisees, and then attend our virtual discovery day. We run our discovery process at individual candidates' pace, and it's not about you got to crawl before you walk, before you run, and we're there to support people at every step. And certainly throughout that process, I'm here to help people and help them learn more.
Now, I assume that Nerds to Go, like most businesses, has some competition, perhaps national or perhaps local. Can you talk about that and how Nerds to Go compares with any competitors?
Sure, we always hear, right, as you look at like IT service and support, particularly in the consumer market, there's only one Coca-Cola. It's Geek Squad, right? Wholly owned subsidiary of Best Buy. And there is no Pepsi, right? So there is, and that's what we want to grow into. But where you look at those key differentiators are Geek Squad, they've been more consumed going into the big box, that's Best Buy, and wanting you to walk in. Why do they want you to walk in? Because you're going to look around and buy other stuff in this 40,000 square foot retail location. And they do about 93% of their work is consumer and residential. We, on the flip side, we focus on the small business space and running, again, like about 75% small business, and then complementing and supplementing that with residential. And we're growing across the country. Then in any local market, and this is part of our training and onboarding, and even part of the discovery process, we recommend go and identify those small mom and pop shops out there. We know that there's a lot of folks around the country who were a good technician, they worked for someone else, decided to hang their own shingle. And typically, in my own exploration, right, we called and checked on their customer service. Out of 10 competitors in my Sacramento market, 3 of them left messages for, never got a call back. One called and somebody answered and said, sorry, Paco's not in. Can you call back at about 1:30? Like, can I leave a message? Or no, he's not in. So that's where, when we go into a market, we absolutely do our market analysis. We see, the big box, we see the small mom and pop, and really position ourselves with that exceptional customer experience, community engagement, versus those small mom and pop shops.
Sean, I really appreciate your taking your valuable time to tell us about Nerds to Go, especially during this time when you're unusually busy and Nerds to Go is extremely busy. But I'm sure that, let's say you're talking to Emily Entrepreneur who is watching this and is thinking about getting into a franchise and maybe Nerds to Go. Are there one or two points that you would come up with that kind of summarize what Nerds to Go is all about and what you would want her to leave with?
I would say a couple of key things. First and foremost, as we talked a little bit about earlier, this is an executive-led mobile model. You don't need a big retail footprint, right? Retail's fading away on us right now, going crazy. We do recommend a small executive office. Or a C+ retail location where you're going to have your nerd lab and service and support, and you're going to grow and scale your team. So your upfront investment is going to have an ROI as you grow, or return on investment as you grow, without that big capital investment up front, and scale as you add customers, you grow that book of business. Finally, the fact that we've got a fantastic leadership team who will hold your hand not only through this discovery process, but we assign a dedicated business coach to you. We take you through our playbook. It is a business in a box, and we help you launch, grow, and scale. So, as you mentioned, Todd, whether it's Nerds to Go or other opportunities out there, look for that business in a box, that strong playbook, recurring revenue, executive model so you can grow beyond yourself, and fundamentally a fantastic team that you're going to like, you're going to trust, and know that has your back as you grow coast to coast. Those are really my key things, and probably, I think, as you mentioned, the hair clipper man, why I put my money where my mouth is. And I'm really proud to be part of the Nerds to Go team.
Sean, I really appreciate, again, you're taking the time. I think someone who has watched this interview will come away very informed about franchising in general, and definitely Nerds to Go. It's an opportunity worth pursuing. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Once again, my name is Todd Moster. I'm with Franchise Solutions Group, and this is a series that we're doing. We look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and get yourself a good business.